Hey folks, well today's flavor of the week is Reggie's 1970 Road Runner. We just did a Holley 750 double pumper brawler install on this car. So I thought I'd share with you guys and gals. It's a really nice car, well done, well sorted out. And we're just trying to dial it in. And we removed what he had on here. This is a 440 4-speed 70 Road Runner, and I think it's got 355 gears. And what it had on it was a Holley 600 CFM carburetor. And you guys probably know this is just a little bit small for a 440. This 440 has the 440 source cylinder heads, aluminum cylinder heads. It's got Harlan Sharp rocker arms, Edelbrock dual plane intake. I think the factory Mopar high performance exhaust manifolds. Car ran really well, but there were a few things going on with this thing. For one, if you look at the geometry here, they had a bicycle chain master link hooked up from the cable to this right here, and so it wasn't going to full throttle. But even at that, it was just under carbureted. Again, it's a good carburetor, but on probably a smaller cubic inch engine. So if you come over here and you look, it's an air grabber car, obviously. And this is our second Brawler, Holley 750 Brawler upgrade. We did a 1967 Eleanor Shelby clone type build for a 428 Cobra Jet with trig flow heads, and we installed this exact same carburetor. And wow, was it ever an upgrade from what it had. I can get this off. This carburetor here, you'll see once I get it off, these air grabbers are a much of a pain sometimes. So this is the Brawler we put on, and this is of course the transfer tube we got from Holley, and this was a heck of an upgrade on this engine. This thing now, it skates all over the road when you lay the wood to it in first and second gear. There's a few things that we did. You'll note if you come over here on the other side, when you put a Holley on a Mopar, you got to have the correct adapters and the linkage. So let me start. This we got from Mancini Racing, and this is for a big block throttle cable bracket. You'll notice I have this upside down. Yes, I do have this upside down. This was so I could clear the air grabber air filter assembly. Our geometry now goes all the way to wide open throttle, and it's a perfect transition, and it works really well. And then this is the adapter you get from Holley that you use for the Holley 4150 series carburetor. And then this pin here is made for the factory cable, and this comes from Mancini. And all of that now works flawlessly. So we got all that on, and really it turned the key and it busted right off. Of course, the timing and everything was already set pretty well. It was a little bit strange when I put a vacuum gauge on it. Once I got the fuel pressure dialed in, this is the second one. I've had to adjust the floats. I did have to adjust the floats. They were way too high. We're running about 5.5 pounds of fuel pressure with this for the gauge. And I found it odd that both of the idle mixture screws on the driver's side, when I turned them a half a turn on the front and the back, and I picked up about 2 inches of vacuum. The ones on the passenger side, they were set perfect. I thought that was a little weird. But anyway, anytime you put a new carburetor on, that's to be expected. You're gonna have to probably adjust the floats to suit what you have for fuel pressure and your fuel system, along with setting the idle mixture. It's so easy. You just take the vacuum gauge on the Holley. This is where you go for the large, to check your vacuum. It's the large barb that's in the middle right here. This one here is vacuum after, I forget what they call it, but once you start opening the throttle blades, this will provide vacuum, and this one does as well. This is where the vacuum advance goes. We replaced the valve covers on this car. He had these powder coated, the little tops on them. Replaced of course, the gaskets. We're waiting on the actuator from Classic Industries for the air grabber system. But I really wanted this video to be more about the Holley 750 Brawler. This carburetor seems to be extremely well suited when you want to do an upgrade. We spoke about the EFI conversion. You know, we do a lot of Holley EFI sniper conversions on these muscle cars, and they're great, but it's more expensive than a carburetor, especially when you're already set up for a carburetor. So the next best thing is obviously to just upgrade, and this was about a third of the price, give or take a few $100s, than the EFI. It's a great alternative, and not everybody wants the EFI systems. I know that, you know, when we do the EFI conversions, we pretty much exclusively try to get the customer to go along with the fuel tank that fits like the factory, so we can have the fuel pump that's self-contained in that fuel tank instead of a externally mounted fuel pump. Because a lot of times when you mount that fuel pump, an external mounted fuel pump, they're loud, and if they're made for gravity where they don't pull, they have to push. And if you don't have the correct setup on your factory fuel system where it's having to pull, ask me how I know, you're going to be on the side of the road with a burned up fuel pump. So, long story short, I think this car, like I said in another video, came out of Virginia or North Carolina. He lives here now in the DFW area. We took it for a test drive after we got all the little kinks and everything, little fuel leaks and everything addressed, and it really, really steps up. It's a lot of fun to drive. So if any of you guys or gals, my experience with this particular carburetor is that it has proven to be a very good upgrade. Here's another thing nice about the Brawler with the fuel bowls. You can mount your inlet on either side, and that's another nice thing. His was mounted, it was coming in from the back, and it was coming in from this side. When we put the adapter on, we had to switch to the passenger side. So that's why we got this flex system, because it's got the choke pull off over here on the Edelbrock, so it's got a flex line over there. Works really well. What I did have an issue with, if you do get one of these fuel inlets, this little bad boy right here is never tight, and that I should have tightened that. I didn't think to, so I had to take all this off. And then of course I used the silicone on a lot of that fuel system on our fittings that have a tapered thread. We use this stuff right here, just a Permatex thread sealant, and it works fantastic. You just make sure you get it on the threads. You don't get it inside where it can go in the fuel system, but this is really good stuff. Another product we use for fuel systems, especially on the EFI systems, and I've seen other folks use this, gas oiler. This stuff right here works extremely well on fittings and things you have that, you know, for fluid, especially for fuel systems. It is outstanding, and it's a paste, and you just kind of mix it up. It's a green. It doesn't take much, so you just brush a little bit of this on there, and of course you make sure not to get inside the fuel system. You just keep it on the threads. Another thing we did, This on the aftermarket valve covers for the Mopars. You know, this is a factory PCV valve for your stock valve covers. You know the diameter. When you buy the aftermarket Mopar Performance valve covers, they're going to come many times with the grommets, as they should. And that grommet is going to be larger. The diameter is going to be larger right here. Well, all it is this is a GM, a standard GM PCV valve. It's got the larger diameter and it fits like a glove. Hopefully most of you guys and gals know that, but if you've been fighting grommet issues, this is the proper PCV valve that's recommended when you have the larger grommet. On this side, obviously, he had the wrong grommet, so it was just flopping around in the wind. He tried to make some stuff work, and it kind of worked, but now we got the right size grommet for the baffle, or for the breather, excuse me. We are going to put a different compressor on this, a black one, in the future. We think that this, because it was open to the elements after we charged the system, it probably got contaminated, so it's not really compressing like it should. Now, I want to show you guys, this is going to get into the specifics of your Mopar 833 4-speed transmission leak. This is the second one I've had. We had a 69 GTX with a 440 4-speed car. The gentleman's owned it since 1969, and I'm going to show y'all. This is kind of what I see as a typical thing. You have a transmission leak on a manual transmission on a Mopar.